Jane, I'm not sure if you can see the numbers, but just letting you know, there's about 50 attendees already online. So it's looking good.
I can see the numbers. I'll wait till they've stabilized a little bit, I think.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
How many are you expecting?
I think over 100 people for sure. It's hard to know beyond that.
Numbers are still going up.
Yeah, I think we can wait just a little bit longer and then just probably kick off. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Polar Horizons. My name is Jane Francis. I'm Director of the British Antarctic Survey, and I'm delighted that you can all join us today for this really exciting opportunity. I'm a scientist by background. I'm a geologist by training, and I specialised in polar science, along with all my colleagues who are going to work with you this week. And I've worked on ancient climates through geological time, mainly using fossil plants to try and understand how climate has changed in the past. But you'll meet a huge variety of scientists this week. We started a Polar Horizons meeting in BAS in Cambridge exactly this time last year. But unfortunately, after about the lockdown prevented us from going any further. But we had some fantastic feedback on how welcome Polar Horizons was. So it's great that we can do it again this year. And I think that even though it's virtual, and we've all got used to using Zoom now, but the benefit of Zoom is that we have made the meeting far more accessible to a much wider range of people. And if you're participating, you'll be meeting scientists, polar scientists from all around the country. So I think you really will see the whole scientific community. Polar science is really important at the moment. It's a really important thing to study and to understand what's happening at the polar regions. All the climate change on the globe, which has been generated in the sort of the mid and low latitudes where most people live, that sort of climate warming has affected the polar regions, even though they're so remote. And polar scientists are doing their very best to really understand what's happening in the polar regions, to every aspect of the polar environment: climate, oceans, on land, ice, the biodiversity, all the animals in the oceans and on land. It's really, really intensely studied at the moment, because the polar regions are the areas on Earth which are most sensitive to change. They're the areas which change the first. And it's what's happening in the polar regions which gives us a clue to what's happening across the rest of the globe, or what's going to happen across the rest of the globe. But although the polar regions are remote, they have an influence on us all. And what we know now from the science that we've done is that what's happening in the polar regions is affecting the whole planet. It's affecting the climate, the ocean circulation, and it's affecting sea level and sea level rise. And that effect, of course, affects everywhere on Earth where most of the people live. So understanding what's happening at the polar regions is absolutely critical for us all. And I hope during the time when you're part of the Polar Horizons activities, that you'll understand a little bit more about how exciting this region is to work on, and how important it is for understanding how our planet is changing. So welcome to Polar Horizons, and I think hope that you have a really fantastic experience joining in. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Jane, for this introduction. Let me just quickly share my screen for the next part. I hope you can see that all. My name is Beatrix Schlarb-Ridley. I'm Director of Innovation and Impact at BAS. A very, very big welcome from me as well to all of you today. I've had the privilege of being part of the leadership team for the Diversity in Polar Science initiative, which the Polar Horizons program is part of. And I'm a biochemist by background. Over the years, I've moved, however, from being a bench scientist more to technology transfer, and then to innovation and impact as a discipline. And therefore, I'm an example of the wide range of careers that you can have in polar science with a STEM background, in addition to the fantastic frontline science. It's a fantastic joy to have you all with us today. And I've very much enjoyed meeting some of you last night also at the Gather Town virtual meeting, which tried to emulate some of that in-person vibe that we were able to have last year, and this year, of course, is slightly more difficult to achieve, but excellent that we have those digital tools to help us catch up nevertheless. And I hope that we'll be able to have more interactions throughout the week with you, and also to continue that relationship and grow it after the Polar Horizons program comes to a close. So I just briefly would like to provide a bit more context as to why the Polar Horizons program is so important to us. And in brief, it's because polar science needs you. It is an incredibly fascinating and multifaceted field, as Jane has already alluded to, and does play a very important role in addressing issues of global importance and helping society adapt to a changing world. And actually that is part of the BAS vision, is to be a leader, a global leader in polar science and operations, but not as an end in itself, in order to address issues of global importance and to help our society adapt to all that changes in our planet. And in order to achieve that, we have the great privilege of hopefully having your help with that. The challenges are absolutely huge, not only climate change, but also associated with it, sea level rise. We have biodiversity loss to battle with. Food security is a big issue, and associated with that closely, freshwater management, where the Himalayas and Andes, the glaciers in those regions play a big role for many millions and billions of people. And an additional aspect that is not to be underestimated is the challenge of conducting that science and the operations that underpin it without increasing with net zero carbon emissions by 2040, which is the commitment that UK Research and Innovation have, and that we very much buy into as well. So those are only a few of the examples of the challenges that we face. And in order to be able to address these challenges, we need a great diversity of input. Diversity in terms of the different scientific frontline disciplines. We need mathematicians and modelers, for example, to drive forward climate predictions and develop AI tools for environmental science. We need the physicists, the chemists, to understand the oceans, the ice and the atmosphere, how they interact with each other and what that means for our future climate and how that will translate into sea level rise. We need all manners of biologists to understand the ecosystems and the biodiversity of those polar regions, how we can protect them, how we can sustainably derive living resources from the rich marine wildlife, for example, and how we can understand what biotechnology might learn from the amazing organisms that are adapted to these extreme environments. We need engineers to come up with widgets and processes and tools that will enable the science to happen under these extreme conditions and to maintain that equipment as well. We need all the operational functions to get people into the field and food and equipment under safe conditions and in a timely manner. We need medics to help us keep people safe, finance experts to make sure that we are able to procure all the different input that we require to make sure everybody is paid on time. HR, IT, data scientists, library specialists, archivists and records managers, all manner of lab support functions. There's a richness of careers that one can have in polar science with a broad background of different disciplines. In addition to that diversity in disciplines, we also need a diversity of approach. And that's enriched particularly through having different backgrounds and diversity in lived experience as well. So if, for example, you've battled with a disability all your life, you will bring that fighting spirit of how we can deal with complex and almost overpowering long-term issues such as climate adaptation and biodiversity conservation. If you have undergone gender reassignment, you are very likely to have a deep insight into what it means to go through transitions. And I wonder if some of that depth of insight might possibly also help us to understand as a whole sector better how we can undergo that tremendous transformation that will be necessary to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2040, which, as I said, we are committed to. So your unique lived experience can have a real positive impact on finding out of the box solutions and approaches to these big global challenges that our science and our operations aim to tackle. And yeah, so we need your experience to help us make sure that we achieve these aims. So slightly selfishly, maybe I've so far focused on the needs of polar science, but the program is very much designed not just to sell polar science to you, but also to be a platform for career development for you, to help you build networks with senior people in your field and with your peers. So we hope that this program will become a very helpful stepping stone for you. And for those of you who are doing the whole program, please do make the very most of the time that you have with your mentors, but also with the facilitators who make things happen throughout the week, with the others in your cohort and the Polar Horizons alumni as well, who you've had a chance already to interact with last night with GatherTown and will continue to do so. it's been highlighted as a consequence of the last year's Polar Horizons program, how very valuable it is not only to have the professional networks with seniors, but also to have a support network of your peers who you can interact with and grow together with. And for those of you who weren't able to find a match with a mentor this time round, hopefully that will be possible next year. And hopefully the joint sessions that you are able to join in with, like this morning, will be helpful for you as well. So above all, please do keep asking, do keep networking to make the very most of this program for you, and enjoy every minute of it. And certainly I think those of us from the Polar community really are looking forward to meeting with you and enjoy that interaction with you all. It's my great pleasure now to hand over to Donna Frater. She's the data analyst and coordinator of the Diversity in UK Polar Science Initiative, who's together with Pilvi and you done an incredible amount of work to make this program happen. And thank you, Donna, so very much for that investment of time and effort and love and passion. Donna will tell us a little bit more about the program and what to expect of the next few days.
Good morning, and thank you, Bea, and thank you, Dame Jane, for your welcome as well. Good morning, everyone. It's really lovely to welcome you here to our Polar Horizons program this week. The Polar Horizons initiative is funded by the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, and we plan to build new connections and collaborations between the UK polar science community and students from across the UK, particularly in the groups that are underrepresented at the moment in our scientists and engineers and operational people in underrepresented groups, particularly BAME, LGBTQ+ and disabilities. We have 3 days of intensive networking and exploring polar research opportunities in front of you. During these first 3 days, we hope to introduce you to the universities and the British Antarctic Survey and the Scott Polar Research Institute, who work across the UK in this vital area of polar research. We're going to use the virtual medium of Zoom and GatherTown to network and to introduce you to these polar researchers. We've asked them to come and talk to you and demonstrate their research and to help show you what it's like to work in polar science, so you can come away with a better understanding of how you can get involved in UK polar science as a career. We will have people talk about many aspects of polar science, from animals to atmosphere, and also the key areas of operations, logistics, and sustainability. We have researchers and operations personnel from across the UK. We have people who have been working across Antarctica and the Arctic for many years in many different areas, from recent expeditions like the Mosaic expedition into the Arctic ice, to Southern Ocean expedition on ships, field trips into Greenland and onto the Antarctic mainland. We've got the Antarctic and the Arctic in the press nearly every day, and even this week, brand new science and research is being displayed across our screens. We want to make sure we give you every opportunity to understand different aspects of how your studies could be applied into that polar world. You've been matched on your area of study, if you have been matched this year, and areas of interest. We had a great number of applications this year. So as Bea said, if you weren't matched this year, please apply again. We had people who applied last year who we've been able to match this year. As we broaden our researchers who are interested in Polar Horizons, we'll have more opportunities. But if you have been matched this year, it's been on your area of study and your areas of interest. So we think the researchers will get as much out of this with their interaction with you as you will get. So please, students, value the energy and the different areas of interest that you are bringing into these conversations as well. It is going to help us to network across the universities, across the UK, both with the students across your network, but also with the researchers as well. So you will get to network with your new cohort of Polar Horizons students. And from the strength of the connections that the students last year developed, I really hope that that becomes a positive thing for you this year. We don't really know what this year is going to bring, but we hope to be able to help you connect with students across the UK so you can share experiences and share your interest in the sciences and engineering areas that all relate to the polar areas. This is a great program, and we're going to offer you a completion certificate at the end, which can help add to your CV. And we also hope we offer new connections into the vital and exciting area of global science. We're going to show you a video now. The following video will give you a flavour of the work that is done in polar regions and why the polar regions are so important and that they inspire thought and research about these key areas of our planet.
The polar regions may be at the ends of the Earth. But what happens there affects us all. Places of compelling beauty and home to some of the world's most charismatic wildlife, these icy landscapes have fascinated scientists for at least 100 years. Buried in snow, ice, rocks, and oceans are secrets that are being unlocked by scientific investigation. British Antarctic Survey has changed our understanding of planet Earth. Our discovery of the ozone hole drew world attention to the damage caused by chemicals in our atmosphere. We linked the rapid warming on the Antarctic Peninsula to human activity, and we revealed the amazing survival stories of organisms living in the extreme. There is now overwhelming consensus that human activity is driving climate change. The urgent questions are: what is the likely impact? What is the extent? And what is the timescale of this global change? The answers are to be found by unlocking the past, understanding the present, exploring the unknown, and predicting the future. This is Polar Science for Planet Earth. Antarctica, the coldest, highest, windiest, and driest continent on Earth. 99% of its surface is covered by ice up to 4 kilometres thick. Beneath this icy wilderness lies a hidden world of mountain chains, lakes, and rivers. The secrets of our Earth's history are locked in the ice, rock, and seabed sediments. Ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica reveal the Earth's natural rhythm over millennia. As annual snowfall turns to layers of ice, bubbles of air become trapped. These tiny time capsules contain the gases and chemicals that were in the atmosphere when the snow fell. Analysis of these ice cores shows clearly the major climate shifts between ice ages and warm periods, revealing the link between the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and the Earth's temperature in the past. Our scientists are now beginning to understand what controlled these major shifts and how today's unprecedented levels of man-made carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases will control future climate change. The polar regions are Earth's early warning system. They are the first places where strong signs of environmental change are seen. the ozone hole formed in less than a decade. The Antarctic Peninsula warmed by almost 3 degrees centigrade in the last 50 years. Thinning ice, retreating glaciers, and disintegrating ice shelves have become universal symbols of global change. The evolution of life and the history of past climate provide clues to what's happening to our planet now. Clues that help our scientists make the distinction between changes linked to the Earth's natural cycles and those linked to human activity. The Southern Ocean that surrounds Antarctica regulates the climate by driving warm and cold ocean currents around the world. It is also a major absorber of carbon dioxide, although there is concern that this is becoming less effective as our climate changes. Its chilly waters are home to whales, seals, penguins, seabirds, fish and krill. Our marine biologists are providing vital knowledge and advice to the international authorities responsible for the conservation and regulation of commercial fishing in the Southern Ocean, essential for long-term sustainability of food for wildlife and for people. Today, British Antarctic survey scientists use their extensive knowledge and expertise and the latest technology to investigate, monitor, and understand the changes to the polar environment. Polar explorers like Scott and Amundsen opened up Antarctica for science. This early exploration led to one of the world's most successful international agreements, the 1961 Antarctic Treaty. This agreement promoted a level of cooperation between nations not seen elsewhere and paved the way for many groundbreaking discoveries. Today, we continue to explore the unknown and prize yet more secrets from this magnificent continent. Satellites, airborne instruments, and ground-based technologies reveal a hidden world beneath the ice. An enigmatic mountain range, the size of the Alps, was probably the birthplace of the vast East Antarctic ice sheet. Lakes, buried under kilometres of ice for hundreds of thousands of years, may contain microorganisms that would help us understand more about the existence of life on other planets. These buried lakes are not the only connection with space. The polar regions are ideal locations for studying space weather. Solar energy is responsible for creating spectacular light emissions. The aurora, these dynamic curtains of light, testify to the stormy weather in space that adversely affect satellites, global positioning system accuracy, and even electrical power supplies. Our mission to unlock the past, understand the present, and predict the future is essential for the well-being of humanity and for a sustainable economy. The risk of extreme weather events and coastal erosion is real and now. Our scientists are working with leading organisations to help build more accurate models to predict future climate change. Sea level rise is already affecting people in low-lying countries around the world. In the UK, financial projections suggest that cost of preparing for climate change and sea level rise through building and maintaining flood defences will be staggering. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the greatest uncertainty in predicting future sea level rise is assessing the true contribution that the polar ice sheets will make. Our urgent priority is to understand the accelerating loss of ice from Greenland and Antarctica so that we can predict the future behaviour of these vast ice sheets. To help future generations live with environmental change, it is essential that the world's leaders have access to the best scientific evidence. Our science is driven by an unrivaled curiosity to understand our world. Our teams of dedicated professionals capture the best scientific evidence about our changing planet. Antarctica, untouched by humans until the 19th century, the least understood region of our planet, is now recognised for its significance as a unique natural laboratory. British Antarctic Survey has an international reputation for leadership and expertise in polar science and operations. Our quest for greater understanding of the polar regions is fundamental for the future management of our fragile planet. This is Polar Science for Planet Earth.
Excellent. It's just spectacular when you see the scenery down there. I've been lucky enough to get to Antarctica, and as a geologist, it's just overwhelming, the science and the amazing scenery and opportunities down there. So right now, I get to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is the Deputy Commissioner, Jane Rumble, and Jane has been the head of the FCDO's Polar Regions Department since January 2007. The British Antarctic Territory is a sector of Antarctica that is administered by the UK as one of its 14 British overseas territories. And this is administrated from London by the Polar Regions Department of the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. So Jane is a geographer by background and a fellow of the Royal Geographical Society. She is a Policy Fellow alum, Centre for Science and Policy at the University of Cambridge. And during 2018, Jane was awarded an Honorary Doctorate of Science from the University of Leeds and an OBE for services to polar science, marine conservation and diplomacy. Jane has been instrumental in the establishment and success of the Diversity in Polar Science Initiative, and we're very happy to welcome her to speak with you this morning.
Great, thank you very much, Donna. I'm just going to briefly take you all back just over 200 years. Now, 200 years is not really very long ago, certainly not in the time that man's been on this planet. In geological time, it's kind of a blink of the eye. But 200 years ago, nobody actually knew that Antarctica was there. There was a theory that it might be, but no one had actually known it. Until a Brit called William Smith discovered some islands, which we now know are the South Shetland Islands. He came back to try to tell everyone, and the reaction was, I'm sorry, you don't seem to be a member of the Royal Navy. You're not supposed to discover new places on the planet. So he went back down again in 1820 with a Royal Naval officer, and this time people believed that they had sighted the southern continent. At a very similar time that the Russians and the Americans were mounting similar expeditions. So there was a universal agreement that Antarctica, in fact, existed. Now, the early days of Antarctica, kind of following its discovery, were pretty tragic, frankly. The reaction to finding this great new land with all its beauty and all its interesting animals was to go and kill as much as possible. So the early days of Antarctica were very much relating to exploitation, particularly the seals and the whales, having been almost decimated from the northern hemisphere. This produced a new place to go and find your whale oil. It was at least a century that this went on before the heroic age that you've just seen in the video, when Scott and Amundsen and others went down to try and actually explore the continent. And then it became a sort of quest to find out whether you could reach the South Pole, whether the continent kind of, actually was solid all the way through, or whether it was still a bunch of islands. And it was this point that the science really started, particularly Captain Scott took down scientists, and then they started to kind of understand a little bit about the importance of Antarctica. So we moved into the kind of explaining mode. So we went from exploited to explored to explained, really. And then we almost nearly had a scrap over it. So Antarctica became a place where there was geopolitical posturing, particularly during the Second World War. And thankfully, we agreed to the Antarctic Treaty that was mentioned in the video, and that's kept it peaceful for the last 60 years. But if you read the history books of these 200 years, for at least the first 150 of them, you would be really hard pressed to think that there was anything related to Antarctica that wasn't basically just young white men. There was the occasional wife and the occasional slave, but they were just considered properties. And all the history book talks about the men of Antarctica. And indeed, that kind of permeated really through the way that countries, when they started to send science teams and started to kind of build up the understanding of Antarctica. So women were considered to be an unfortunate distraction and not up to the hardiness of Antarctica. And so even the British Antarctic Survey didn't let people go to Antarctica and overwinter and stay the whole year round until the early 1990s, which is an incredibly, I know some of you won't have been born then, but it's an incredibly recent time to actually have women in Antarctica. So notwithstanding if you just arrived on the planet and you were watching this webinar, you might wonder what we've done with all the men. We are moving towards equality, but in fact, women are still kind of around the third mark, but improving massively. Now, the reason this matters is that as you've heard from Dame Jane and Bea in the video and others, we now know that Antarctica is absolutely critical to understanding the planet. We now know that it drives our oceans, which influences our climate, our atmosphere and our climate, which influences our weather. We also know that because Antarctica is warming, it's making an increasing contribution to sea level rise. So Antarctica is literally lapping around the coasts of the United Kingdom. So what happens in Antarctica matters to everyone. This means that what happens in Antarctica is everybody's business, and we want everybody to have a say about how it's governed, how we manage it, and where it goes into the future. At the moment, the main activities are science, tourism, and fishing. And there is an agreement, thankfully, under the Antarctic Treaty that we won't exploit Antarctica for its mineral wealth. But that may not hold into the future. So the future of Antarctica is really in quite literally in your hands. And we want the decisions that are made about Antarctica to be truly reflective of what the world wants. Now, within government policy and within public policy, we know that policy is better made when it's made by a group of people that reflect the population that they're trying to represent. We know that decisions are more sustainable if they're made on behalf of the whole with certain levels of consensus and consultation and not just made by a select few. So our vision really for the next 200 years of Antarctica is to make sure that people who work in Antarctica are those who are actually going to be affected by it, that have a say in it. So we have come an incredibly long way from the last 200 years to improve our gender diversity, but the UK Antarctic polar community is still very white. And we wanted really to break down any myths about participation. We know that when you can be your whole self, when you can be true to what you believe, true to who you are, whatever that may be, you are happier and you're more productive and you make better decisions and you do better science, basically. That's been proven by a number of studies. So that's why we wanted to address what we could do to break down myths, identify barriers and break them down about why the UK polar community wasn't as diverse as we would, as the UK population, basically. So we came up with this concept of having a real push over a couple of years to enhance diversity in polar science. And I am really pleased, and you must forgive me a few thank yous, particularly to Dame Jane and to Bea, and to Donna and Pilvi and Hugh, that the British Antarctic Survey really approached this with great openness and great enthusiasm, and we really didn't need to go over the reasons why this was important. It was just completely understood that we need to do better. So we have been working for the last couple of years to, as I say, break down these myths that the polar community is in any way closed or difficult to engage with, to try and make it much easier, but also to look at what are the barriers to participation and see what we can do about opening those barriers. So these Polar Horizon events really are just fantastic. And thank you so much for your enthusiasm and for engaging. And to everyone right across the UK, I'm so thrilled that the UK polar community is building a kind of coalition around supporting this initiative. So it's not just about the British Antarctic Survey. We've got many representatives. In fact, you're going to hear shortly from the Scott Polar Research Institute, from UK universities, that everybody is getting involved in this is just absolutely fantastic. So I do wish you a really great participation. Thank you very much for being involved in this. And I hope we may continue until the polar community meets these targets of true reflection of the UK population. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you very much. A very articulate explanation of the work we have been doing for the last couple of years, and the support across the board has been spectacular. So thank you very much. So I will introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Professor Mike Bentley, and he is Professor at Durham University and Department of Geography. Now, can I say at this point, if I mispronounce any of your spectacular UK cities' names, please just let me know. I'm always learning. I learned how to say Bangor yesterday. I've been saying that wrong for a while. Mike is a geologist by background, and he has a PhD in glacial geology, which is very exciting. He has research interests that focus on Antarctic environmental history, especially the history of the ice sheet in the Antarctic Peninsula and the Weddell Sea region. Mike has a number of current research themes, including the Antarctic ice sheet history, Antarctic subglacial lake exploration, Antarctic ice shelf history, and the glacial and climate history of southernmost South America, which sounds very exciting. Mike is also the chair to UK NCAR, which is the UK National Committee for Antarctic Research. So Mike, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us this morning, and also for being one of our host researchers. We appreciate your time.
Well, thanks very much, Donna. And can I just add my welcome to everyone. Really pleased to see so many people joining up to this fantastic program. As Donna said, I'm come from one of the UK universities that has a big polar community. University of Durham is one of the leading polar universities in the UK. But I'm speaking to you both as a senior academic in a department, in my case geography, but also as chair of the UK National Committee for Antarctic Research, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's the way that the UK tries to coordinate our research in Antarctica with other research going on with the 50+ nations who work in Antarctica. I want to talk about three things just for a few minutes. First of all, I've been asked to talk a little bit about my own journey into polar science, and I want to try and dispel some myths about planned careers, and talk a little bit about happy accidents with a little bit of determination behind them. I want to briefly talk about why universities think Polar Horizons is really important, and why you see so many universities signing up to this and university academics. And thirdly, what the polar community and universities might do about the Polar Horizons objectives, and other institutes such as BAS. So I think if you'd, my career is not entirely planned, and I think we should be really honest about that. And I'd urge you, those of you who are being mentored, I would ask you to talk to your mentors about kind of how planned what they came to do was. And those who maybe aren't mentored, talk to the facilitators about their experiences, because I think there are some myths out there that this was all kind of planned from day one. I think if you'd asked a younger me about being a professor working in Antarctica on the ice sheet history for 25 years, you know, with 15 field seasons and fantastic colleagues and working in a great university, I probably would have laughed at you or looked behind me and thought you were talking about somebody else. For me, it was a series of happy accidents, which I'll go through 3 or 4 of the happy accidents, and just I think in the background there was a kind of long-standing focus and interest, and that's what served me well. So I was good at science at school, but actually was far more interested in going climbing, and actually spent far more time doing that, going cycling, expeditions, and so on. In a lucky escape for a maths department somewhere in the UK, I initially was applying for maths degrees until a geology teacher arrived at my school, at my comprehensive. And although he had to teach geography, he said he wanted to teach an O-level in geology. And I thought, that sounds interesting. I'll find out how all these mountains form. And within 2 weeks, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study. And I'm afraid you're getting spoken to by a lot of geologists and geographers today, but just absolutely blew me away, geology. And I immediately shifted away, fortunately for UK maths, I've shifted away from maths, those of you who know my maths ability, and applied for university geology. So that was a happy accident. A teacher arrived at the right time who inspired me. Second happy accident, I applied and got to Edinburgh to do geology and go climbing, of course. And 1 degree and several expeditions later, I'd got involved with environmental charities and I had a growing interest in Antarctica. And I thought, great, I'll do a PhD on Antarctic things. So I applied for PhDs in the UK, overseas, and so on, and I didn't get one. I did not get a PhD in Antarctica, and actually my last application was to a fantastic supervisor, my happy accident, who said, I've got nothing going in Antarctica, but are you interested in Patagonia? And he knew he had the hooks in, and he reeled me in with Patagonia. And so I did not do my PhD on Antarctica. I did it on Patagonia, on ice sheet history there. And the person I worked with, David Sugden, is enormously supportive to this day. I've been working with David for 30 years, and he's been enormously supportive of all my career. The next happy accident, I was going to the BAS recruitment talks. BAS quite often used to do a roadshow around the UK universities, recruiting men from around the UK universities. But they never advertised jobs I was interested in. They weren't really working on the ice sheets at the time, other than through straight glaciology. I was interested in ice sheet history. The happy accident was a very wonderful BAS senior scientist called Chris Doak, saw the potential of what I wanted to do and supported me to do a NERC fellowship after my PhD. And actually I was probably I think the first NERC fellow to be supported with fieldwork in Antarctica. And that just set me on the path after my PhD. I started to work in Antarctica. A happy accident that I got a lectureship at Durham, and since then I've been privileged to be able to work in Antarctica. Durham are very supportive of my teaching being arranged around Antarctic fieldwork, and I've been able to teach thousands of students about Antarctica over 20 years in Durham. So the idea that any of that was planned, other than a kind of a long-standing focus and determination, do you know, I'm quite interested in Antarctica and I'm interested in environmental issues. That's what kind of stood me in good stead. And I think it's best described as me pushing at a door I was interested in and helped by supportive mentors throughout. And I think I've been very fortunate in meeting a series of mentors. And I think part of what Polar Horizons is about is trying to provide added opportunities for you to get those sorts of networks and to meet those sorts of mentors. So why do the university see Polar Horizons as trying to do something important? Why is it so important to us as well? Why are we joining up? Well, first and foremost, the makeup of the polar research community does not reflect wider society. And you've heard already from Bea and Jane about why that matters. The universities, we want to draw on the full range of talented scientific minds on a diversity of approach, diversity of thinking, different approaches to problems, different experiences of problems that might make you think about them in different ways. And to address all those big scientific questions that Dame Jane, that Jane Rumble, that Bea have all talked about, we need the best creative, smart minds to answer them. And we are aware we are not tapping into that full diversity, that full range of the smartest minds. And the universities are becoming increasingly aware of barriers that we have created and that we need to tear down to full participation. So we know about fees to apply to masters, our PhD recruitment processes, so have some inbuilt biases in them that we're trying to deal with. We know that an emphasis on fieldwork and time away without a corresponding emphasis on emphasizing support structures for those who are left behind, families and friends and so on. We need to make sure that polar science is an incredibly welcoming environment, but there can be parts of universities that can be less so, and we need to make sure that that changes. And of course, I think what's been mentioned a number of times is the lack of role models, and we are trying to address all of those barriers in the universities. To those of you joining the program to be mentored or to learn more about polar research and to work with a facilitator and to be exposed to a range of polar science, do please talk about the barriers you've faced or that you can see ahead of you. We want to hear about them so that we know what we're trying to address. Please don't see this as a one-off. I think Bea and others have said this, and Donna have said this is not intended to be a one-off. You will make contacts with peers that you will draw on for years to come, and you will have mentors, I hope, who will help you through your careers, wherever they might go. Keep those relationships going. I still have people that I met 25, 30 years ago doing PhD that I still talk to regularly about career stuff and are very good friends. it's become clear that we need to tear those barriers down in the universities, and we need to hear about them. And then I think my third set of points will just simply be around, in the universities, what should we be doing, that hopefully those who've joined this program to be mentored, it'll be one of the happy accidents in their careers. I truly hope so. I truly hope you look back on this and think that was a fantastic happy accident that I was on that program, I managed to get on that program. But what can we as mentors do, both in the universities and BAS? And from speaking to my colleagues who've signed up to mentor, it's very clear that none of us would be here, none of you would be here, if we didn't think we need to do better as a polar science community. We're all committed to do better. That's one of the reasons why we're here. And by being here, my colleagues are committing to do that. We will want to listen and hear the sorts of things that others see as barriers, that perhaps have or that we have experienced as barriers and find to still exist, to our horror. And I think all of us are looking to make our community more inclusive and more welcoming to all. And I think we want to keep talking. We want to see Polar Horizons as part of a kind of, I think somebody talked about a coalition, and it's absolutely, that's a coalition, and it's a group of people who want to keep talking about how do we improve the diversity in our polar science community. So to everyone, I know the program will be useful to you, whether you're mentored, menteed, just joining to hear more about polar science. Do please take full advantage of everything that's on offer. And absolutely enjoy the program. You're going to have a week when you get to talk about polar science, which is frankly the best job in the world. And most people on this call, you know, just absolutely love their jobs. They think it's the best thing in the world to be doing. I'm sorry we can't meet in person, but I'm absolutely confident I'll meet many of you in the years to come as you develop your polar careers. And if I can add my thanks to Pilvi, Donna, Hugh, Jane, and both Janes for their initiating this program. And I'm going to hand back to Donna with thanks.
Mike, thank you so much. Just a brilliant wrap up of why I think we're all here. I think it's very true that we all love doing our talking about our polar interests. And I certainly look forward to meeting you in person one day. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a good week also as a host this week. We will be asking everyone how the week goes. Are we talking about the right things? Are we supporting you the right ways? Have we given you the right information at the beginning? And how we improve? Because this is certainly a program we want to continue through into the future as well. Mike, that's a very hard act to follow, but I'm very confident in our next speaker as well. Michael Bravo was one of our favourite speakers from our program last year, and we're very happy to have him back to speak again this year as well. So Dr. Michael Bravo is the head of the Circumpolar History and Public Policy Research Group at the Scott Polar Research Institute. He's an academic and author, and he's based within the Department of Geography at the University of Cambridge. He's the author of the newly published North Pole, Nature and Culture, which I need to get onto as well, Michael. Michael has a number of current research themes at the moment, including the Inuit Northwest Passage Project, maritime geographies of science, and institutions and public policy in the field sciences. And Michael has an amazing background, which started with a Bachelor of Engineering with telecommunications engineering. And he's got an MPhil and then a PhD in the history and philosophy of science from Cambridge. Michael, welcome, and thank you so much for coming back and speaking with us this year.
Thanks very much, Donna. And yeah, what a pleasure to be making a return visit to this program. I remember very fondly last year the opportunity to meet all the students and yourselves actually just before lockdown. So it's we're a year on, and I'm so glad to see that the program is running again this year even under these challenging circumstances. So a big hello and welcome to everybody over Zoom. Thank you. I want to echo many of the things that have been said already about inclusiveness, and maybe add something about decolonization over the next 2 days. I was really struck first by colleague Jane Rumble talking about the quality of decision making and how it depends on being inclusive, and that better decisions are made when people taking those decisions are representative of the different constituencies. Also, Mike's very passionate, and I thought very interesting and honest reflections a moment ago about his path into polar science and sort of the serendipity. By accident he came into it, and I think the same might be said for many of us. Just first of all, a word, if I may, about the Scott Polar Research Institute. We're just across Cambridge from the British Antarctic Survey. We've been around for 100 years, and I'll share a few slides in a moment. If I can, let's try that. It comes up. Yeah. There we go. Is everyone, can you see the slides? So yeah, we're celebrating our 100th anniversary. And this is our building on the stamp on the right, founded in the building was 1934. And the images convey a certain view of polar science. Obviously, we look back with fondness to the role of Scott in British polar science. But of course, things have changed a lot. And the question is, in a way, how do we move from the era of polar regions so closely identified with these heroic values to the modern research institute and that polar science is today, broadly speaking? So one of the things we do at the Polar Institute, of course, is we work, I think fundamentally inclusiveness requires collaborative approaches. Sometimes we use the word interdisciplinary, which goes some way to the need to reach out beyond our own immediate concerns to the methods and approaches of other people. But I also wanted to share this slide because the polar regions, and this should be emphasized, is a fully inhabited world. And I'll say in 2 or 3 ways, because we've seen a lot about the beautiful and fantastic wildernesses and ice scapes. But I guess we want to remember too that the polar regions are inhabited. And this is a slide focusing on one of only 6 different groups of permanent participants of indigenous groups in the Arctic. And so the ethos of research, particularly today, is on doing things with the people who live in the Arctic, okay? And that's a really central aspect of research, because how you will go about things collaboratively actually is what opens the door to inclusiveness. So at the Polar Institute, we're very pleased that for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years, our research students have also included people who actually live in the Arctic and come to Cambridge to do their research with us. And echoing what was said a little bit earlier too, I mean, here's a wonderful photo from 1969. I think this was the first group of women scientists working, and this is taken at the South Pole, Terry Terrell in there with the National Science Foundation, so that the United States were leaders in some respects in getting women down to do science in the Antarctic, and helped to bring other countries to be more inclusive, including the UK. And I just wanted also, on a personal note, I think we don't do this enough. I just wanted to take the opportunity to signal to you some of my own mentors in my career, who I don't get enough opportunity to thank. So this is a nice opportunity to do that. All very important people who Professor Mary Hesse on the right in particular was perhaps one of the most 10 distinguished philosophers of science of the 20th century. But it's fair to say that it has not always been easy for women in academia. So where do we go from there? I just want to say a couple of things about the kind of research we do at the Institute. I started by saying we're inclusive because, particularly in the social sciences and humanities, and I want to add those to the list that we've heard of different polar sciences earlier in these talks, the polar humanities and social sciences are really central. And why is that? Well, they're central because if we're going to produce an international climate agreement of the kind that we're seeking, that was we hoped would come out of the COP meetings in Paris, then we need to have consensus from countries like China, India, Britain, the United States, all real central players in global climate talks. So the way we approach our research and teaching at the Polar Institute is actually changing. I wanted to sort of finish on this note, really. This year, we've had so much interest from students around the world in the teaching we're doing, not only on the Arctic and Antarctic, what we call the first and second poles, but also the third pole of the Himalayas and Tibetan Plateau. So we're also doing more comparative studies. And why that third pole? Because the headwaters, the waters of the rivers that come out of the Himalayas actually supply the water and therefore the agriculture as well downstream for about 1 billion people. And that leads us, I think, to thinking finally about diversity and inclusiveness in quite a different way. First of all, it attracts students who are not only wanting to work in the Arctic and Antarctic, though that's very central to what we do, of course, but it also gets us to think comparatively. So I'll agree completely that the Arctic remains this place where climate change, many things happen both as an early warning system, and many of the effects that our physical scientist colleagues are identifying are amplified. The polar regions, the Arctic and the Antarctic, remain very integral to the world system. And I guess if we're going to maximize the benefits of research that are taking place in the polar regions, if those voices are to be heard in the international climate negotiations, then we need to make sure that we're integrating and in dialogue with the research taking place in other regions just as much. So I think, we might look back on polar horizons in the future, just the way that I've shown that slide of women at the South Pole in 1969, and kind of wonder what brought us together this week, and what kind of a moment in history it is. And I think that's, in a sense, why this is so exciting. This is surely something that we want to share with you, the excitement of polar research, but it also speaks to a moment where not only that we want to be inclusive, but you can see that the community's thinking about what it means to be inclusive, and how that conversation itself is developing and changing. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you, Michael, very, very much. From my initial scientific interest in the poles was certainly about Antarctica, and these last 2 years I've learned so much more about the humanities and the mixture of studying the humanities and science, both at SPRI but also across the UK. So thank you very much, and we'll be seeing you again later this week, which I will enjoy as well. We'd now like to introduce 2 of our Polar Horizons alumni from last year. I'd like to introduce you to 2 women who I admire greatly. They are currently enmeshed in tertiary study in the UK and exploring how their interests, both scientific and social, can be combined in their life going forward. It's not just about a career in science, it's about life journeys and how our scientific interests and our understanding of our science and its role in the environment and climate change, and how all that folds together into a journey. So I'll introduce you to Lara first. So Lara Lalemi is a PhD student at Bristol University. She did a master's degree in chemistry and is now studying her PhD in aerosol science, particularly observing photo-initiated reactions in climate-relevant compounds. She is also, as if that wouldn't be taking up enough of her time, she is also the Chief Executive Officer of Creative Tuition Collection. So I'd like to encourage everyone to write some of these things down, from Michael's book title to chasing up Morgan Seag, who's done some work on those first women who went down to the South Pole, but also look up Creative Tuition Collection. There are some extraordinary things being done in this space at the moment. So Lara is helping to build inclusive practices in leading decolonising science workshops, along with skills and career development sessions in STEM for teachers, young people and STEM professionals. So Lara, very much welcome. She's also our BAME in STEM consultant for the British Antarctic Survey's diversity, for the British Antarctic Survey, and also a committee member for the Diversity in Polar Science Initiative. Equally, I'd like to welcome Madeline Anderson. And Mads is currently studying Master's of Science Marine Biology. She is also the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the UK Polar Network, which we'll be hearing more about this week as well, with some very interesting studies being done also in Southern Oceans. So I'd like to welcome both of you here this morning, and we're going to hear about your experiences with the Polar Horizons program last year. Not only the short program we had in person, but also what the next 9 months and what you hope for your students this year.
Sure. Am I going first? Matt, do you want to go first?
Where you go, Lara?
Okay, I'll go, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Donna, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, so it's really hard to know where to start, but I'd like to say thank you to all of the team for inviting me today, including Jane Rumble and Jen Francis. So my journey into science has been, I wouldn't say a straight road. I never really thought I was a good scientist. I just thought it's the best thing I could do. And I really loved chemistry, so I decided to do chemistry. And it's funny because throughout the whole of my being in school and in undergraduate, I didn't know that the polar research existed. I knew obviously about the ozone hole, and that kind of drew me to understanding climate change, which just drew me to atmospheric chemistry and aerosol science. But I didn't know polar science and the British Antarctic Survey existed. So then when I started on my diversity in STEM work, and I was contacted by Donna, I was pleasantly surprised. And it kind of snowballed from there. And what's actually really exciting about the British Antarctic Survey and polar science is how diverse it actually is in terms of the jobs that it offers. So it's not just scientists, it's also the other people that make up, like I met people like Mariella who work in HR who were amazing and made me feel so welcome. And so, yeah, I started off as the BME and STEM consultant, and I got to meet wonderful people like Jane and Hugh and Pilvi. And what was amazing about them and what I hadn't really kind of ever had before was this immediate feeling of comfort. Do you know what I mean? They made me feel comfortable. They made me feel like I belonged there, even though I talked a lot, and even though I was very funny, but obviously not always at the appropriate moments, as you can testify to. He won't say anything now because he's muted, thank God. But yeah, like I felt so immediately comfortable and listened to, and they actually took a lot of my suggestions on. And I think, like, seeing what they brought into fruition, which was the Polar Horizons, what you're part of today, was amazing. I haven't seen a conference like this. So strangely enough, when I first started, when I first came to Polar Horizons, I came with an idea of it was going to be a conference about science in the polar region. And I was interested because obviously I do aerosol science, which connects with ice nucleating particles in the polar regions. So I was really interested from the scientific point of view, and I got connected with some wonderful people, Anna and Joe, who were my mentors. And unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to them as much as I would have liked, but because of COVID, obviously, but they were great people. And I loved meeting Anna because it really sparked those ideas of what I could do in the polar regions. And plus, I really wanted to see penguins in their natural habitat, even though they smell, because they are literally the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I was really interested in Antarctica for those reasons, but also because of the social reasons and like what it could afford me in terms of my career. Because it is so diverse, I could literally do anything in polar science and still feel like I fit in. So yeah, I when I came to Polar Horizons, it was really strange because I didn't actually consider what it was. I was just like, yeah, this sounds great, let me go. And I think one of the most the turning point for me was, well, two things. So Donna came up to me on the table, was like, Lara, do you want to kind of interact with people? And I don't know if anyone knows this kind of about me, but I'm an extroverted introvert. So in like massive social situations, sometimes I feel like I don't want to kind of go and talk to people. And Donna was there to really, and she will be throughout the whole week this week, she was really there to encourage me and to give me that confidence to go and speak to my peers. And that I kind of rolled my eyes, I was like, fine. Like I was a stroppy teenager being told to clean up my room. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so then I went outside and had a coffee, and someone next to me, her name is Ellie, who's a wonderful person. She's like, oh yeah, no, I saw this on Twitter and it said LGBT plus people, and she was like, I'm gay, so why not? And literally, I had never ever heard someone say they were gay in a scientific conference. I mean, obviously there's people in your courses, but like, just to have that being said with me made me immediately relax, because I just felt like I wasn't alone. And so, like, going into there, sitting down with my tea in front of everyone, I actually started to look around. I was like, oh, people are like me. Like, I didn't have to pretend to be something that I really wasn't. I didn't have to hide the fact that I was queer. I didn't have to, obviously I couldn't hide the fact that I was Black, but like, I didn't felt like being Black was like an issue or something that I had to be like quiet about. It was actually actively discussed throughout that day. Now you can imagine now meeting for just a day, and when 9 months later we're still talking to each other, signposting different career opportunities, and that one day, normally if that was another conference, you would just disperse and go, cool, thanks for meeting me, and great. But this one, it forms connections. I feel like I would be there for the rest of my hopefully my career. And so that's what Polar Horizon does. If you actually take the opportunity and use it to your advantage, you can create so many beautiful connections. And you can also meet so many brilliant people. Like, I met Michael Bravo that day, and I'd say my world got a little bit brighter because of that. And that's because I run a decolonising science workshop, and I'm not going to speak for too long, sorry. But yeah, I run a polar decolonising science workshop, and inviting people like Michael with the vast amount of knowledge he has was so instrumental to the development of the workshop that we introduced to universities across the UK. And so that day, I would say I headhunted Michael. I don't know if that's a proper term, but I definitely did. I was a shark, and I went, yes, please, can you work with us? And he was so lovely. He said yes, and he actually spoke with me, and he spoke over lunch. He forsook his food just to speak to me, and I couldn't be more grateful. And that he's, because of that, and we did actually get food, so I didn't starve him, don't worry. But like, the fact that he was there and he was willing to talk to me, you'll find that many people throughout this week are going to be there to talk to you. And whatever questions you have, don't be afraid to ask those questions. I've gotten over the fact that I will seem dumb sometimes by asking questions, because it's not about seeming dumb. It's about asking them and receiving that kind of support that you need. So don't be afraid of that. And take advantage of everything that you have this week, because again, like, it's important that we come together as a collective. So yes, I run Creative Tuition Collective. And the reason why I do that is because to draw young people together to talk about their experiences, but also within STEM, and to build their knowledge of what's available to them, such as polar science. So I'm going to leave it there and transfer to Mads. But I just wanted to say how wonderful it is to be a part of Polar Horizons, the British Antarctic Survey, and Creative Tuition. And I hope if you want any advice or you would like to speak to me, I am definitely here with all the energy in the world. So yeah, please do use me as a resource for you. Thank you.
Oh. Right. I don't quite have the same amount of crazy energy as Lara, but I'll give it a good shot. I think the main thing to come out of Polar Horizons is it's just completely changed the way I view science, changed the way how I view myself. You know, it took, I don't know how many attempts for me to actually submit and apply last year, and to sort of tick that box and be like, hi, I'm queer, is that okay? And everyone said, come join us, you've got a space here in polar science, you know, you're welcome. And now I'm like, I belong here, this is me, this is who I am. I first sort of came across polar science in first year when we learned about ice formation and brine rejection, and I'm a biologist, but I just thought that was insanely cool. And so I sort of pursued polar science after that, and in my third year I was able to go on study abroad to the University of Tasmania and just spend an entire semester learning about the Southern Ocean and Antarctica, and I just loved it, and everything followed from there. I think being a part of Polar Horizons has given me an understanding of what's actually going on inside BAS. It sort of seemed a little bit like a fortress, and you know, how do I want in, but how do I get in? And now having a better understanding of actually, you know, these are all the different jobs going on and all the different roles that people have. And yeah, that was a brilliant consequence of Polar Horizons. And not only that, having a cohort there of people with different backgrounds, of talking about aerosols, you know, I don't know anything about that, but I've been able to learn from not only my mentor, but other people in the cohort as well. And even during summer, I kept coming across something called GIS, and I was like, what is GIS? So I sent a message to our WhatsApp group and I said, guys, what's GIS? And within the hour, I had messages about pros and cons of different, you know, QGIS and ArcGIS, and I had emails of people just sending me, you know, I did this module on GIS, here are all of my notes. And that is just, the support from Polar Horizons is just brilliant. And yeah, so just take advantage of it. Like Lara said, you know, there's no stupid questions. If you don't know something, then that you will find plenty of people very happy to explain it to you. And equally, say what you do know. Say, hey, I'm researching such and such, and you know, it sort of links to what you're doing, but kind of doesn't, you know, please tell me more, let's have a conversation over lunch. And yeah, so just enjoy this week, make the most of it, have fun, learn as much as you can, ask as many questions as you can, and just get into it, enjoy it. And yeah, don't hesitate to ask any of us any questions, because we're here.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you both very much. You both have also connected in with different committees. Can you just share with us a little bit about why you choose to, you know, add that to your very busy calendars? Why are you, Mads, why are you joined up with the UK Polar Network EDI committee?
Yeah, so I felt like I got so much confidence and so much out of Polar Horizons that I wanted to be a part of something to encourage others to have a community like I did. And so I thought being an EDI officer meant that I could be working on projects to get even more people included in polar science and really increase diversity in our little community. Yeah.
And Lara?
I love a committee, I'm not gonna lie to you. They really do get my go. I mean, obviously, and it's really good when you have people that share your vision of just wanting things to be better. Like Mads is an amazing person to meet, because again, like, not just meeting those people from the Polar Horizons, but is actually, if you consider what is reflected in a committee, it reflects in the actual people that come to a conference. So the diversity within the community, or the diversity of opinion, and the wanting to strive towards better, it really was reflected in the cohort of 2020. And you can tell that by people like me and people like Mads being a part of Polar Horizons. We really wanted to make that change, and that change is being made now. So being part of a committee and a collective of people not only makes you feel supported, it makes you feel empowered. It makes you feel that you have all those resources and the people there, like say Michael or say like Pilvi, to like really push ahead and do well for not just you, but for your collective. Do you know what I mean? Like, we only can do and make a progress together. Like, you're not a single entity. You don't feel like you're on your career path alone. I think what Mike really highlighted brilliantly was the fact that you're not alone. You need mentors, like no matter who you are. I love to talk and I need mentors. I have about 6, and that's because they nurture a little part of my soul and part of my career that I need to be nurtured to get me to the next step. So don't be afraid to email people after this week and say, can you be my mentor? Just an hour a month. please, I just need to talk about through things that about in my career. I really want to get into like glaciology or into polar science, and I just don't know how to get into there, and can you help me in that stepping stone? And most people would say yes, or every 2 months, and they'd say yes. So really do utilize those people around you, because we don't really get opportunities like this, and this is the sort of nepotism that we need. Not nepotism, but you know what I mean? Like, we don't have nepotism, and we need to have to open those doors. Use that word wrong. But
we call it positive networking.
That's what
and I would also encourage people to ask the question. When I was talking to the UK Polar Network Committee a few weeks ago, though, I said you have to be prepared to ask questions and have people say no. But if you're not getting a few no's every now and then you're not asking enough people enough questions. And even for me this year, I've been asking people to come and speak to our groups, and I've wanted that, and I've wanted them to come. But sometimes I've got the no back. But for me, every couple of no's, I'm getting a yes, and that yes was outside my comfort zone. So it's not just for students, it's for everybody. So be brave and ask those questions this week. It's absolutely brilliant, you two. I do with much emotion. I really enjoyed the cohort from last year because you brought yourselves, and we want to replicate that feeling of everyone being welcome exactly the way you are, so that you can bring your full self. Because as a scientist, I know that if my brain can fully think about my work and not have to worry about hiding a little bit of myself when I'm with my colleagues, or I'm with my professor, or I'm with my lecturer, then I get to bring my full mind to my science and to my life. So that's an important part of why we're here and why we're all doing this, to connect with you. But as these women have said, it's up to you to put a bit of energy into that networking. And whether you do it through WhatsApp groups or Zoom calls, not only the seminars, but follow through with people, and you'll remember in a month, oh yes, I was going to talk to that person about, you know, pebbles at the bottom of the glacier, or, you know, something else particularly exciting. You know, make sure you do that. You've got to take that little 2 minutes of energy, and you keep the connections alive, because that's how it will drive the energy that we have seen in these students over the last 12 months through, you know, the harder times we've had this year. So I do encourage everyone to do that. So thank you very much, girls, and you will be speaking again through the week. So what we're going to do now is I'll welcome Pilvi and Hugh onto the screen, and we're going to have our closing remarks, and we're going to let you have a break shortly.
Hi.
There we go.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's difficult to follow those two with their inspirational words, but I can't even think of anything nasty to say about Lara, and anybody who knows us knows I've normally got something to say about Lara. And Pilvi asked me to go first because Pilvi doesn't like public speaking, so I'm going to go first and not just talking over her. Firstly, thank you very much to everybody who's here. So there were over 100 of you at one point, and most of you have stayed for the full first session. And thank you to all our speakers. It's been a brilliant mix of things, and really shows why we want Polar Horizons to happen. And Polar Horizons is really special to me, because I've worked in polar science for over 20 years. I know I don't look old enough, obviously, and I'll get all those compliments, but it has been a long journey. When I started, most of the things that Lara and Madeline were just talking about were not discussed in polar science. And in fact, just before I started my career, they were actively discouraged in polar science. So it has felt like an uphill battle until people like Jane Rumble and senior people like both the Michaels that we have joining us today show support. And when organizations like BAS or Scott Polar Research Institute actually actively say we want to change the way things work, and a little idea like Polar Horizons turns into something that has got 63 matches. And one of the things that was amazing for me was I have the privilege and the task of matching people up based on their science. So not caring about your background. So although it's about bringing diversity in, it's about making sure that you are matched to the research institutes most suitable people for you to work with on scientific or engineering or research type basis. And that was amazing to see out of a group that it was actually so hard to have to not match some people up, because there was such an amazing quality of people applying this year and such a huge number of people who want to see what polar science is like. And I remember personally finishing off my undergraduate years and somebody saying to me, are you going to apply for the wintering marine biologist job at the British Antarctic Survey? And my response was, why would anybody want to work there? It's cold and it's dark for 6 months of the year and you're just stuck there. It's miserable. And I ended up similar to Mike Bentley, but with less enthusiasm for the polar regions to start with, sort of just haphazardly, accidentally working my way into a career in polar research. And now I wouldn't swap it for the world. So even if you're a bit unsure about what polar research is, use this week to find out where you had stereotypes and where you had misconceptions of what polar research is going to be like. Because very often we hold ourselves back, like I did in that first opportunity to work for BAS and say, no chance I'd ever apply for that. Actually, I'd go back to Antarctica tomorrow if the ship was ready to go. And I love it. And after 20 years of doing it, I still think this is the best job anyone can have in the world. So that's where I want some of you to get a taste of that. And we're going to give you loads of things, from policy stuff right through to environmental responsibilities and all sorts of things over this week. And most of that will be open to everybody. And for those of you who have been lucky enough to be matched to a mentor, really see that you have been lucky enough, because we had more than triple the number of mentors that we had last year, but we still haven't been able to match you all. So if you're not matched, please don't take it as any criticism of you or your skills or your enthusiasm. And like Donna said, you can always apply next year and let us know on your application so we can try and bump you up the order a little bit and make sure you get a place. But I've talked probably more than I'm supposed to right now, so I'm going to let Pilvi say anything that I've missed out on that I should have said at this stage.
I think most things probably have been said, but I'd like to note that I think that I'm the first non-scientist speaking, because before me, everyone else has had a science career or has some sort of background in science. But yeah, I think we've covered most bases, and I did ask you to go first because I'm nervous, and I'm nervous because I think this means a lot to us. Like everyone who's been on this call, like it's very emotional. It's just amazing to be doing this work. And one thing that I'd like to highlight is that not only do we want to make sure that we're bringing the right people in, but we really want to work on our community and, you know, educate ourselves about where our biases is. And like that's something that you hopefully also see throughout this week, throughout this year, when we continue with the online activities, that we are asking ourselves these questions. We're not perfect yet, but as a community, we want to be ready for you as well. We not only do we want to welcome you in, but we want to make sure that you are welcome when the day arrives that you are joining the community. So yeah, I think that that's kind of everything that I had to say. After this session, we have one session introducing the match students with the hosts, and then in the afternoon, we're continuing with the open sessions again if you were not matched this year. But you should have all that information. You can always email me, Hugh, or Donna if you have any questions, and we'll do our best to keep an eye on the emails even when we're running the sessions and everything.
Yeah. Thanks, as Donna said to me in a WhatsApp message just now, this may be the first ever Zoom meeting that will end early rather than late. So we should all make the most of having an extra 10 minutes in our coffee time and get away from screens, maybe get a bit of fresh air. And those of you who are coming back this afternoon, you get a nice long break from listening to us talk. But everybody else, if you take half an hour now, and we'll see everybody else back at 11 o'clock, and you should be able to follow the links in the programs that Pilvi sent out. Should bring you straight back into the right session. So just click on the right session number. But thank you very much.
I'll just finish up with a big thank you for our speakers again. Thank you so much for your welcome and for framing this absolutely perfectly between the three of you, Michael Bravo, Mike Bentley and Jane Rumble. Thank you so much. And we look forward to everyone joining us again throughout the week. So if we can have the hosts and match students back at 11 o'clock, please, on your different Zoom link. And we look forward to seeing you there. And thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.